Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. This man needs no introduction, but unless you're new to football, let's just make it clear. He's the number one overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. Make no mistake, he had no right being as good as he was as a true freshman who won a national title. He took one of the greatest college football teams ever and put up a fight that no one else could. It's not when he'll be picked, it's who. And that's what we're discussing here today. Now that we're already a fourth of the way through the season, the Tank for Trevor sweepstakes are on, and we're going to take a look at who's in the driver's seat for the first overall selection and what their circumstances are going forward. We'll revisit the sweepstakes around mid-season when things are a little bit more clear, but for now, this is what we're looking at. Stop overachieving. I'm not going to hit on any other 2-2 teams in this video, but Carolina is a team worth mentioning because they were strongly tied to a tank before the season. The fact that they're playing this well is a strong testament to this young coaching staff, but if they want Trevor Lawrence, they're going to have to start acting like an inexperienced coaching staff. The Panthers are one of the best landing spots for Lawrence because they have the nice young weapons, they have a rebuilt and upcoming defense, hopefully, and they have a very high upside coaching staff. But at 2-2, it seems like the Panthers will play their way out of serious contention for the Clemson quarterback. So we're going to put them in a great landing spot, but likely to overachieve tier. Dak Prescott has been absolutely incredible, but that kind of becomes part of the problem. If the Cowboys somehow can't play their way out of the first overall pick, and I assume they will, the option becomes between paying Dak $40 million a year or grabbing Lawrence on a cost-controlled rookie contract with a loaded offense. But the defense is clearly the issue here, and I can't imagine Dak doesn't drag Dallas outside of the T-Law sweepstakes. So they're going to be in the unlikely to be that bad tier. Nope. Penny Sewell. Desperate for Penny Sewell. Denver would be a great spot for Lawrence to land, as they were a pretty common sleeper pick before they were absolutely decimated by injuries. A brutal loss for their chances at the number one pick by beating the Jets with their third-string quarterback might put them just outside the front-runner tier. But whether or not Denver will be in a position to make a play on Lawrence depends on both Locke's health and progression. A throwing shoulder injury is going to be tough to finish the season with, but he should have the second half of the year to prove he's the guy and play the Broncos out of position. If he can't get healthy or just doesn't perform, even with a really hurt team, then Lawrence is too good of a prospect to pass up on for even a quarterback that's shown flashes like Drew Lock. So we'll have to wait a little bit longer, and I'm going to put them in a tier similar to Carolina. This one's harder than it seems, so I'm going to leave it at this. It's pretty much the same situation as Denver. The difference is Minshew is healthy and has all season to prove it, while Denver won't have Locke until around their Week 8 bye. Minshew isn't quite enough at the moment to keep them from drafting Lawrence, but through flashes, he's shown that he could be their guy, so there's a chance he plays them out of position. Mind you, they do have an extra first-round pick from the Rams to play with, so if they're in striking distance, they have more immediate ammo than most to trade into that spot if that's the route they decide they want to go. In the meantime, we need to see more from this team because it's still too early to see if they'll overachieve or be closer to what we expected them to be before the season. So for now, I'm going to put them in the likely and hopeful tier. Justin Herbert looks pretty good. Penny Sewell tier. This is one of those yes please type landing spots. Does Dan Snyder deserve Trevor Lawrence? No. But there could be much worse landing spots for Lawrence himself. A young stud receiver in Terry McLaurin, an emerging runner in Antonio Gibson, not to mention a great defensive line on the other side of the ball. Football team has spots to build around on both sides. They might not be close to fielding a complete roster, but they have more than some other teams that are drafting this high. Dwayne Haskins just hasn't shown enough for us to trust him, and while he has all season to improve, odds are if Washington is drafting this high, a lot of that will have been because of the quarterback. Throw in an upcoming rebrand, and I think this is one of those teams that will be gunning hard for Lawrence, and I'm not nearly as confident in them as others that they'll play their way outside of a top 5 pick. So we're also going to put Washington in that likely and hopeful tier. These teams are all in the exact same situation. They have their quarterbacks, they're all 30 years or older, they're all taking up large percentages of the cap, but all these teams need to improve their defenses far more than they need to upgrade at quarterback. With Atlanta and Detroit, they're very likely to have new coaches and potentially even general managers after this season, so the direction these teams are going to want to go will depend on who they hire. So we're not going to spend too much time trying to figure out things that we're not going to know for a while. We're just going to take our time and see which of these teams start scraping together wins by the halfway point of the season. Okay, so this one is a bit more tricky. New York is uber talented on offense, but at the moment it's just not coming together, and losing Saquon really takes the heart of this offense away from them. Daniel Jones is only in his second year, and they have a rookie head coach, so their struggles aren't all too surprising. Should they really bottom out into a chance to draft Trevor Lawrence, it really comes down to the decisions around general manager Dave Gettleman. Unless Daniel Jones doesn't show any promise at all, it's likely David Gettleman will want to stick with his guy and trade for a haul because the defense needs a ton of help. But if there's ever a prospect to make you move on from a questionable young quarterback, it is Trevor Lawrence. It's a tough call to make for a team that has a ton of question marks, but if they continue to look this bad, they will be in that conversation. No, Penny Sewell. Our true frontrunners. They may not own the top pick at the moment, but they have all the momentum to be the worst team in the league. Sacrificing Sam Darnold for Trevor Lawrence is going to be a painful process, but the market and investment into help like Mekhi Becton and Denzel Mims really makes this a no-brainer. The new head coach hire is going to change this process a bit, and while New York could benefit more from a trade down because they need a lot of help in a lot of places, Trevor Lawrence isn't someone that you pass on in hopes of landing a better quarterback later. So unless Sam Darnold becomes really, really good quickly, or until the other 0-4 teams get worse, the Jets are a clear frontrunner. When we revisit this at the halfway point of the season, we'll have a better idea for sure who is and isn't in these sweepstakes, because in reality, it only takes about 4 wins to knock you out of this conversation. We'll look into each team's situations more closely as well as their schedules as teams' identities start to form. For now, this was way more of a general overview, but with 3 months left to go, anything can change, so we'll see what happens by then.